I think that what the Cowboys can do and the way the Cowboys built their team, I think they match up well with the Eagles. I still have the Eagles winning the division. I still have the Eagles as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I don't think that way of the Cowboys. The reason why I think the Cowboys-Eagles game is going to be a great game is because Prescott is going to have a big game like he normally does against the Philadelphia Eagles. Over the last 5 times that they played, he's completed over 70% of his passes, 16 touchdowns to only 1 interception. The Cowboys are 4-1 when Prescott plays against the Philadelphia Eagles in his last 5. I think this is a better matchup than people are giving it credit for, right? I think both of these teams are looked at in different ways than I think what the actual reality is. Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the CEO Sports Show. My name is Kretschman. I am your host. And on today's video, we are going to be breaking down the Cowboys versus Eagles Week 1 matchup. We are here. Football season is finally here. Well, at least the NFL is finally here for the NFL fans. College football has been rocking so far this season, but we are here at Week 1. So before we get into the video, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. Make sure to go check out the other shows on the Kretschman Media Network. We are doing some fantastic work over here at Kretschman Media, and we're only going up from here. We've been in business for about a month so far, and everything's been great, and we really appreciate the support. But without further ado, let's get into the video, because you guys do not want to hear me talk about the business side of this, right? You want to hear me talk about the football game that's going to be played on Thursday night, and I want to talk about the football game that's going to be played on Thursday night. So let's get into that. The Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, will be playing the Dallas Cowboys in Week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. And I think this is a better matchup than people are giving it credit for, right? I think both of these teams are looked at in different ways than I think what the actual reality is. I think that people look at the Eagles and say, there's no doubt about it, they're going back to back. They are the Super Bowl favorite. Don't even play this season because they're that good. And I personally don't think that they're that good. Like, are they Super Bowl contenders? No doubt about it. But I don't think it's so much so that you say, like, just cancel the season because they're that good. I just don't look at this team and say that. I think they lost more talent, and not only just lost more talent, but those were important pieces to their football team. And they lost a lot of guys this offseason. Whereas obviously the Cowboys just lost somebody that was big to their football team, but they brought in players as well. Like, is the addition of Kenny Clark and George Pickens, does that equate to what Micah Parsons brought to your football team? I don't think it's much of a drop off, right? Like, with those two guys and the addition of those two guys, is the drop off between not having Micah Parsons and bringing in those two guys, is it to the extent that people think it is? I don't know if it is. And they did bring in a lot of talent this offseason, right? It might not be names that people know, but it's quality talent when you talk about Jack Sanborn, Dante Fowler. I thought they had a very good draft this year. And I look at this team and I say, I think they're more in that 10 to 12 win range than the 7 to 9 win range that I think people are giving them. When you look at this team, you look at the receiver core, Lamb and Pickens, that's the best receiver core Prescott's had. And even if you want to say, well, Prescott, he's just a good regular season quarterback, quite frankly, I think that he gets way more criticism than he deserves for his postseason failures. I mean, he's played 4 postseason games, and I think he's been good in like 4 of those games. When you look at the Rams, the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers games, like, he played bad in the 2 Niners games and the Packers game, right? Like, I don't know. I think he's had more good playoff games than he's had bad playoff games. I don't believe wins are a quarterback stat. That's just the way I look at this. But even if you want to say he's a bad postseason quarterback, you can't say he's a bad regular season quarterback, because he's put up some big time numbers. And when you have the pass catchers that the Cowboys have with Lamb, with Pickens, with Ferguson, with Turpin, with Tolbert, that's a lot of talent that you have to throw the football to. And we'll see what happens with this offensive line, because I think a problem that they had last year was holding up in protection. If they can hold up in protection and be able to get the ball downfield like they were able to do in 2023, Dallas could be in for a big-time season. Now, when we look at this game, I want to start off with the Eagles. When you look at the Eagles, everybody knows what this offense is built around. It's built around Saquon Barkley. It's built around what he can provide to this offense. And then everything else just happens. It's Saquon Barkley and it's the offensive line. When you look at their offensive line, their starting five, Jordan Mailata, fantastic left tackle, maybe the best left tackle in football right now. I would make that argument in my personal opinion. It's either him or Tristan Wirfs. Left guard, Landon Dickerson, very, very good player. Center, Cam Jurgens. He's all right. He's solid. Right guard, Tyler Steen. He's not very good. Like PFF, I'm not big on PFF grades, but PFF ranked Tyler Steen last year as the 75th guard out of 77 guys. So I know there's some buzz coming out of camp about him. You got to show me. Right tackle, Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer, one of the best right tackles of all time, still playing at a very high level. So that's their offensive line. That's what their entire offense is built around. Offensive line and Saquon. And then the passing attack complements the run game. I think Jalen Hurts is a fine quarterback. He's a useful quarterback. He does some things well, right? He can get the ball to A.J. Brown down the field, because these teams are going to be playing a bunch of cover one on the Eagles because they got to load these boxes to try and slow down this run game. And I think Jalen Hurts has a pretty solid deep ball. I think people kind of overrate it, in my personal opinion. I don't think it's one of the best in the league like people tell me it is, but it's a fine deep ball. It's an effective deep ball that he has. He can get the ball to Brown. He can get the ball to Smith. But, when you talk about middle of the field, the underneath type of things that you want to see from a quarterback, Jalen Hurts, that's not his strong suit. And there's data to back that up. There's film to back that up. It's just not his strong suit. So when you look at this offense, it's built around the run game, the offensive line, and the passing attack complementing what they do on the ground, which is an effective way to win football games. I mean, we saw it last year. The Eagles won a ton of football games. They won 14 games. Hell, they won the damn Super Bowl. So whatever they're doing on offense, they should probably not worry about people saying, hey, you need to throw the ball more, and just stick to what they're doing. They do it very well, so much so that they won a Super Bowl doing it. So offensively, when you talk about this game on Thursday, it's going to be about this offensive line being able to get downhill, being able to win at the point of attack against this Cowboys defensive line. And more so when you look at it, when you look at the interior of the Eagles offensive line, I think that's the weakness of this offensive line. Landon Dickerson coming off that injury, is he going to be 100%? And Cam Jurgens, he's a fine player. Steen, I don't think he's very good. But I think the Cowboys, when you look at their interior defensive line now with Odigizua, with Kenny Clark, with a guy like Solomon Thomas as a depth piece. Mozzie Smith, he's a okay player, like below average to okay. Nothing even remotely close to above average. But as a backup, he's okay, right? So, when I look at this defensive line, especially in an attack front that they're going to be playing, where they're looking to get upfield, split double teams, and make plays in the backfield, I think that Odigizua and Kenny Clark are a fantastic duo for that. I think Kenny Clark is a perfect fit to what Dallas wants to do with this defense because, again, attacking front, penetrating, getting upfield, that's something Kenny Clark can do. Oso Odigizua, people are going to look at his run defense grades on PFF. I will say, when you look at what the Cowboys did last year from a defensive side of the ball, the read and react type of stuff, that's not Osa's thing. But we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, so I don't want to get off on a tangent there. When you look at the Eagles defense, obviously it's headlined by Jalen Carter, which, by the way, if you need any more, information as to say that PFF is a joke, even though I just talked about Tyler Steen's grade, again, it's a metric. It's not the metric. Jalen Carter ranked 18th amongst interior defensive linemen. They graded him as a 73.3. Jalen Carter, when you watch the tape, you watch the film, if you walk away saying that he's not a borderline top 5 guy at minimum, I don't know what you're watching. I have no idea what you're watching. So when you look at this defensive line, I don't think it's as great as it was last year. I mean, I see people rating this defensive line as the best in football. I don't know what you're saying. They're not better than Pittsburgh. I don't think they're better than the Giants defensive line. And there's probably a lot of other defensive lines, the Rams, that I just think are just flat out better than the Eagles defensive line. It's not as good as it was last year. They lost Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. Those guys were huge in that Super Bowl win. They were the 2 best players on the defensive side of the ball that game. So when you look at that, I think that they're a bit weaker in that unit. The linebackers, I'm very impressed with what they built with their linebackers. Zach Bond was tremendous last year. Fantastic get by Howie Roseman and excellent job by Vic Fangio identifying this young man and saying, okay, we're going to bring him in and we're going to play him as an off-ball linebacker. And he did some really good things. We'll see what happens with Jahad Campbell, the rookie linebacker, highly touted coming out of the draft. The reason why he fell was because he dealt with injuries at Alabama. But we'll see what happens there, right? Nakobe Dean, he's not going to be playing in this game, but that's another linebacker that when you look at the season as an outlook for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's a guy that I think you have to take into consideration. When you look at this secondary, I think it's a bit overrated if you ask me. Quinyon Mitchell is a good corner, but when people start saying that this guy is top 5 or even top 10, I kind of say like, okay, let's step back a little bit. Like some of the graphics that I saw when it came to, hey, lock down Jamar Chase. No, he didn't. Played like 3 reps on him. Hey, lock down CeeDee Lamb. No, he didn't. Played like 3 reps on him. And one of the reps, it was a 3rd and 5 in the red zone, and he gave up a first down like pretty easily, right? Like Quinyon Mitchell, he's a good player, but do I think he's like this elite corner? No, I don't even think he's the best corner on his team. I think that's Cooper DeJean. Like I think the praise that Quinyon Mitchell gets, I think Cooper DeJean should get that because I think he's a better player than him. And that's another player that you have to talk about playing in the slot there. But when and they also have a Dory Jackson, he's going to be getting the nod there at starting cornerback. But when I look at this cornerback room, do I think it's enough to slow down CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? Absolutely not. They're good. Don't get it twisted. They're very good. CeeDee Lamb is a top 3 receiver in this game. George Pickens is one of the best deep threats in football. George Pickens is a fantastic receiver. He's played with bad quarterbacks, and he's made it work. I mean, this guy playing with Dak Prescott is going to be special watching those two operate. I think that the Eagles are going to struggle if they can't get a pass rush in this game to hold up against this Cowboys passing attack. When you look at the safety room for the Eagles, Makuba's the rookie. A lot of praise about Makuba coming out of training camp in the preseason. Will he start in this game? I'm not 100% sure, but they have Reed Blankenship. They have Sidney Brown. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last year, which I think is a hit, not just from what he did on the field, but what he did as a leader of that football team. I think that they took a hit there. So that's the Eagles. When you look at their team, they're obviously a very, very good team. They have a chance to go back-to-back and win the Super Bowl again. But again, when you look at the team, I'm not saying that they're by far the favorites. I don't even think they're going to win the NFC. I have the Los Angeles Rams doing that. I think that they're a special football team. And so are the Eagles, no doubt about it. But do I think they're going to be as good as last year? I'll ask this question. I won't answer it. Eagles fans, do you believe your team is going to be better this year than it was last year? Just an honest question. If it's yes, then it's yes. If it's no, then it's no. But with all the talent that they lost, again, it's not to the point where I'm saying that they're not Super Bowl contenders. But I think it's very fair to say that they're not as good as they were last year. And that's just my opinion on it. And if you disagree, you disagree. But that's just the way I feel about it. Let's move over to the Dallas Cowboys. What their offense is built around is their passing attack. Prescott is one of the most prolific passers in football. He's one of the best pocket passers in football. To me, he's easily a top 10 quarterback in the game. Over the past 10 years of his career, even though I think that, he's entering year 10. He's been consistently one of the better quarterbacks in football. Easily, again, top 10. And when you look at this passing attack, it's built around, can the offensive line hold up in protection? And Prescott's going to get these guys the ball. And I think that with this passing attack, they're going to be able to give the Eagles problems because of the fact that they have Lamb, they have Pickens. Turpin is just a fun piece for their offense. Ferguson's a very solid tight end. Tolbert as like a fifth option. Sure, why not? Why not? But, the question that I have about the Dallas Cowboys is this. What is Brian Schottenheimer's offense going to look like? Because, look, I covered the Cowboys for 4 years. I was very tapped in with what was going on with this football team. During the 2023 season, when Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator, it was his first year in that role. The Cowboys offense struggled for the first 4 games of the season. It struggled. And then, after the bye, they played well in week 5 against the Los Angeles Chargers. After the bye, they went into Mike McCarthy's office. It was Dak, it was CD, and it was Brian Schottenheimer. And they were like, hey, we think we need to change some things up with this offense. And they went more with the Brian Schottenheimer type of offensive mindset where you're going to move people around in motion. You're going to use your run game to complement your passing attack. Things like that, even though the Cowboys did struggle running the ball that year. And that wasn't necessarily something that was in the offense. But move guys around the formation. You have a chess piece in CeeDee Lamb that you can move across the formation. Isolate him in certain matchups. Find favorable matchups to take advantage of. And I think that Brian Schottenheimer is going to be a good play caller for the Cowboys. I think he's going to be a good head coach for the Cowboys. How good? We'll see. We'll see how good he is. But with this new offensive approach where they're using motion, and I think they're going to be one of the highest motion teams this year. And I think that that's going to, the more answers you give a quarterback like Prescott pre-snap, the greater the chance that he's going to shred you. And Dak Prescott does have that ability to shred a football team, to shred a defense. He does have that ability. We've seen it for years now. And if they're going to win this game, it's going to be because this offensive line holds up in protection. They're going to be able to run the ball good enough. And I think that ultimately, when you look at this offense for the Cowboys, it's going to be Prescott, the passing attack, and trying to get teams to play light boxes against them and punish them on the ground for playing light boxes. Will they be able to do it? I'm not 100% sure about this running back room that the Cowboys have. But when you look at the Eagles' defensive line and the edges they're going to be throwing out there with Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt and Azeez Ojulari and these guys, can they attack those edges and really wear out those edges on the ground? We'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to be about securing those interior defensive linemen against this in this game. And when you look at this interior offensive line for the Cowboys, Tyler Smith, to me, is the best guard in football. No doubt about it. He's the best guard in football. I think if you're doing a draft right now, every general manager would take Tyler Smith if they were drafting a guard. That's how good I think Tyler Smith is. He's young, he's vicious, he's mean, he's skilled, all of those things. Cooper Beebe, second-year center, very impressive first year from him. We'll see if he can build from that first year onto his second year. Tyler Booker, they picked him at 12. He, to me, was maybe the safest pick in this draft. And I think that right away, he's going to come in and play good football for the Cowboys. And I think that when you look at this interior, it's the strength of this offensive line. And when you look at the interior of the Eagles' defensive line, I think that's the strength of their defensive line. So that's going to be the matchup that I think is going to win this game. Can the tackles, Guyton and Steele, can they hold up in protection enough against Nolan Smith, Hunt, Azeez Ojulari? Can they do that? And I think the answer to that is I think this offensive line can hold up in protection. I think by the end of the season, we're going to be looking at it as one of the better units in football. So that's enough for the offense. When you look at the defense, this is where the question marks start to come in. It looks like Trayvon Diggs might be playing this game. He said 75, 80% chance that he plays this game. If that's true, that's huge, because now when you're playing in base, your outside corners are Bland and Diggs. When you're playing in your nickel, it's going to be Elam on the outside, who I think is a decent starting corner. Diggs, and then you're going to throw Bland in the slot. He's going to be in that like Rondé Barber type mold. So that's what they're looking at from their secondary. When you look at their defensive line, because I do want to get back to their secondary, but I want to get to the defensive line because I want to go from inside to out. You look at their defensive line, the interior tackles are actually the strength of this defensive line. It wasn't the strength a week ago. It was these edges with Parsons and the guys that they have, but things have changed. Obviously, you made the trade with Green Bay for Kenny Clark. You lose Micah Parsons, but I think that this interior with Clark, with Oso Odighizuwa, and the scheme that they play, which is that attacking 4-3 front, they're going to be able to not only get after the quarterback, but I think that they're going to be able to be better against the run this year, way better than they were last year. Philly, it's a little different. It may look bad. There's going to be a lot of people after the game if Dallas struggles against the run. Oh, it's the same Dallas Cowboys. They're going to struggle against the run this year. Like, they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, it's hard to get a gauge on how good your run defense is against the Philadelphia Eagles unless you shut them down. But if the Eagles come out here and run for 150 yards because Saquon Barkley is like one of the best players in football and they have one of the best offensive lines in football, I'm just going to look at the Cowboys and be like, okay, you struggled against the best running team in football. Not every team has Saquon Barkley. As a fact, only one team has Saquon Barkley, and you're only going to play them twice this year, maybe a third time play them in the playoffs. But like, I think that when you look at the season as a whole and what these defensive tackles are going to do, they're going to get up the field. There's going to be tackles for losses. They're going to get into more pass rush situations, which may actually be better for this defense because I still do think that they have pass rushers on this team. I mean, you have Dante Fowler, who was the best pass rusher on a team that got to the NFC Championship game. Let's not forget that. You have Donovan Ezaraku, who was a guy who a lot of people thought fell in the draft to the Cowboys, that they feel like they got a guy who should have been a first-round pick in the second round. Sam Williams is a former second-round pick. He flashed a lot over his career. He's coming off that ACL tear last year. He needs to be a little more consistent. Those are things that are just accurate. That's just the truth. But you have Nealon. He's a second-year guy. We'll see what happens there. Again, I think that this is a good defensive line. I actually think that they're a more balanced defensive line after the Parsons trade than they were before the Parsons trade, because I think that they have good players all across their defensive line, where I said, look, their one technique, that's like the worst room that we maybe have seen, or in the worst collection of players that we've seen maybe in the past few years, with Mozzie Smith and Jay Toia. Like, they were going to run that unit out. And now they have Kenny Clark playing there, which brings just a completely different element to their defense. So, that's what I'm looking at with the defensive line. I actually think that the linebackers are underrated. When you look at Jack Sanborn, a guy who just plays with instincts out of the rear end. Instincts are what that's this guy's superpower. And you have Kenneth Murray, who is an athletic freak, right? And I think that playing with Jack Sanborn is going to be big for Kenneth Murray, right? Like, to me, Jack Sanborn playing with Murray and Leafau, who Leafau had a pretty solid rookie season. We'll see what happens there. Those three, I think that linebacker room is pretty solid. And then when you add DeMarvion Overshown back to this room, I think he'll probably be back by November. This could be a very good unit for the Cowboys. I do worry about their safeties, though. I think they're just average at safety, to be honest with you. I think they're average. Like Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, I just think that they're average. And, average is better than being below average to bad, but it's not great. And they've kind of been average at safety for the past few years here. And, if they're going to play this cover, a lot of cover 2 and do more things like that, Donovan Wilson playing in coverage, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, teams are going to be able to attack that. This guy he does not play well in coverage. He's the guy that you put in the box, big nickel type things. And that's how Donovan Wilson is used effectively. It's not cover 2, drop back in coverage, because teams take advantage of that. So when I look at the safeties, they're kind of just average. But when I look at this cornerback room, Diggs is a good corner. Bland's a good corner. Elam's a decent corner. And they're going to get Savone Revel back. They're going to get him because this is his rookie season. Again, that was another guy that was looked at as a first-round talent that they got in the 3rd round. Again, when I look at this Cowboys team, I don't see very many bad units. Their offensive line, I think it's going to be better than people expect. It's a young unit that I think is only going to get better over the course of the season. I look at Prescott as a very good quarterback. I look at this receiver room. It's one of the best in the league. The running backs, that worries you. But if you're dealing with the type of coverages that I think the Cowboys are going to deal with, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball perfectly fine. They brought in Clayton Adams, their offensive coordinator. He was an offensive line coach over in Arizona. He's going to bring in a different run scheme. And then when I look at the defense, I think their defensive line's good. I think their linebackers are good. I think their cornerbacks are good. I think their safeties are average. I think that's the worst unit on the team is the safeties. And they're kind of just average. I just don't think there's a bad unit. I don't see where people are coming from and saying that the Cowboys are a bad football team or even a below average football team, because I don't think there's anything below average on this football team. I think that it's either average with the safeties to above average with the linebackers, good with the defensive line, good at corner, good on the offensive line, great at receiver, very good at quarterback. And below average at running back. Sure, I'll give you that. They're below average at running back. Tight end Ferguson, he's very solid. He has the potential to be a top 10 guy. We saw that before. I don't know. I'm not buying this Cowboys being a bad football team thing. I don't know. But when you look at this prediction for the game, now look, I am a Cowboys fan. I'll preference that. And maybe I can't shake this feeling. And if you want to say that my analysis is compromised by the fact that I'm a Cowboys fan, I try for that to not be the case. I really do. But when I look at what Prescott has done against the Eagles over the last 5 times that they played, he's been very effective. Very effective. The reason why I think that this is going to be a great game is because the reason why I think the Cowboys-Eagles game is going to be a great game is because Prescott is going to have a big game like he normally does against the Philadelphia Eagles. Over the last 5 times that they played, he's completed over 70% of his passes, 16 touchdowns to only 1 interception. The Cowboys are 4-1 when Prescott plays against the Philadelphia Eagles in his last 5. You can deny it all you want. Prescott plays very well against that football team. And I look at this and I say the key to the game is where they're going to potentially win this game is the offensive line holding up in protection against the Eagles' defensive line. Because if they can, I don't think the Eagles' secondary is good enough to handle CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and the receivers that they have. Because I don't think there's any secondary in the entire NFL that is good enough to deal with those receivers. That's how good I think Lamb and Pickens are. It's the best receiver duo Prescott has had over the course of his career. And I think that this offensive line, they'll be able to hold up in protection against this Eagles defensive line. And that's the reason why I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win this game. I think they're going to go in game 1. I think that they're going to do enough to slow down Saquon Barkley because Yes, I think their run defense is going to be improved. Is it going to be an elite run defense? No. But I think this Cowboys offense is going to put points on the board. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. I think they're going to do enough to slow down Saquon Barkley. It might be 120 yards on the ground. Can Jalen Hurts shred this Cowboys defense? I don't think that he can. I haven't seen Jalen Hurts do that. Like maybe one time, if you want to say that game that they played in 2023 in Lincoln Financial Field, but that game he only threw for like 200 yards that game. I don't consider that shredding that defense. I can't shake this feeling. And usually when I'm being told, hey, this is how the game's going to go, it usually goes that way. I can't shake this feeling. And if I were to say that the Eagles were going to win this game, it's because they're the Eagles. Instead of diving deep into this and saying, okay, I think that what the Cowboys can do and the way the Cowboys built their team, I think they match up well with the Eagles. I still have the Eagles winning the division. I still have the Eagles as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I don't think that way of the Cowboys. I think they could win the division. If things go their way, they could win the division. Could they be a Super Bowl contender? I don't know about that. I think they could be a very good team this year. I think their defense could be more consistent than it was last year. But I think where this game lies is that the Cowboys, they match up well against the Eagles. I just think they do. I think they match up better against the Eagles than pretty much any team in football outside of like the Ravens or the Buccaneers or the LA Rams, right? I think this is a great matchup. And I think one of the edges that the Cowboys have is that with this offensive scheme that Schottenheimer is going to run, Vic Fangio's never seen what he's going to do with the Cowboys, right? He might be able to go back to the Jacksonville play calling that he had. Remember this, Brian Schottenheimer, that Week 18 game that the Jacksonville Jaguars played against the Indianapolis Colts, where the Colts lost to the Jaguars and missed out on the playoffs because of that game. Brian Schottenheimer called that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And there were some really good things that he did in that game. So I just can't shake this feeling. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. And I think it's going to be a massive upset. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to melt down on Friday when this is the case. But would it surprise me if the Eagles went out there, completely embarrassed them and made me look like an idiot? Yeah. And if so, please come back and tell me how big of an idiot I am, because I would deserve it at that point, because I am going on a whim here. And again, I will say this. I try to be as objective as I possibly can. And I actually, it's kind of annoying that I am picking the Cowboys, because I do want to be objective, but there's just something telling me pick the Cowboys here. And again, maybe that's just the inner fan of me. But yeah, that's what I got the Cowboys in this game, 31-28. So that's going to be it for the video. Please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time. Oh yeah, please make sure to go check out the other Kretschman Media shows on the network. We're doing some great work over here, and I really appreciate the support from you guys, and we're going to continue to make great content for you guys. So yeah, that's going to be it, and I will see you guys next time.